So, all eyes are on August 15th. Well, it's now confirmed that President Trump and Vladimir Putin are scheduled to meet next week on August 15th, 2025, in Alaska. This is the biggest geopolitical development of the moment. Russian President Putin is coming to the U.S. The last time Putin visited the United States was during the United Nations General Assembly meeting in New York a decade ago. Since then, this will be the first time a Russian president has set foot in the United States. So, let's discuss everything in simpler terms. What's likely to happen in this meeting, how it might go, and whether it could lead to any real conclusion. Let's begin. But before we get into all that, it's important to point out that U.S. foreign policy right now doesn't seem to follow a clear direction. It feels more like a hit or miss approach. Just a week ago, President Trump called Putin a crazy mad person and warned that if he doesn't agree to end the Russia-Ukraine war, the U.S. will impose the next level of heavy sanctions, not just on Russia, but also on any country that continues to buy Russian products. August 8th was marked as the final deadline. To pressure Russia, the U.S. even deployed a nuclear submarine near the Russian region. This created a lot of buzz and tension in the media. But suddenly, everything changed with a surprising announcement. Just a few hours ago, President Trump posted on his Truth Social account, confirming that the highly anticipated meeting between him and President Putin will take place next Friday, August 15th, in the great state of Alaska. Now, the wording of this post is quite important. While Trump often posts in his own unique and unpredictable style, the phrase highly anticipated stands out. It reflects the global urgency and attention this moment carries. President Trump clearly understands that the media and the world will go wild when he and Putin finally meet face to face. Also, the choice of Alaska as the meeting location is also very strategic. If you look back in history, Alaska was once part of Russia until 1867, when the Russian Empire sold it to the United States, a move many consider one of the biggest geopolitical blunders. Even today, many Russians regret selling Alaska so cheaply. But now the real question is, what's going to happen in Alaska? Will Putin agree to end the war with Ukraine? Or will things get even more tense if Trump speaks as bluntly with Putin as he often does with other world leaders? Honestly, I think a lot of countries might try to sabotage this meeting. It's not in everyone's interest for Trump and Putin to sit down and negotiate directly. Ukraine might even try to disrupt the talks by launching a major attack on Russia, aiming to shift the focus or create fresh outrage. Several European countries, especially those strongly aligned with NATO, may also prefer that this meeting doesn't happen, at least not without their involvement. They may fear that a private Trump-Putin deal could reshape the global balance of power without any checks or outside input. So this is where things stand. If this meeting between Trump and Putin actually happens, I personally believe we'll see a different version of President Trump. His tone will likely shift, more cautious, more respectful, and possibly even warm. He won't be as loud or confrontational as he usually is with other world leaders. Secondly, I don't think this meeting will lead to any real conclusion. Let's be honest. Putin is going to come with a long list of demands. This isn't just about stopping the war. It's about redrawing borders and rewriting geopolitical power maps. Putin has already declared that all of Ukraine is ours, and he's shown no signs of softening that stance. Right now, Russia's economy has fully shifted into a war economy. They're prepared to sustain this conflict for as many years as it takes. Sanctions haven't broken them. In fact, some argue they've made Russia even more self-reliant and determined. And here's a powerful sign of where Putin's mindset is. During a recent visit to Moscow by U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, sent for peace talks, Putin reportedly gave him an award to pass on to a senior CIA official whose son was killed fighting against Russia and Ukraine. That gesture was both symbolic and provocative, a reminder that Putin plays hard and on his own terms. He is playing mind games, and honestly, he has major leverage in this war. Negotiating with him won't be easy for Trump. It's going to be one of the toughest talks he's ever had. But still, what could realistically happen? Well, even if not the entire country, Putin will likely demand at least half of Ukraine, especially the entire Eastern Front, as a condition to stop the war. From his perspective, anything less would be seen as a failure. Think about it. If Russia doesn't gain significant territory after all this, after losing thousands of soldiers, families being torn apart, enduring crushing sanctions, and suffering global reputational damage, then what was the point of the war? That's exactly what many Russians would ask. So yes, Putin is under huge pressure from inside Russia. He has to come out of this war with something big to show, not just for his image on the global stage, but for his survival politically at home. He can't afford to walk away empty-handed. In addition to territorial demands, Putin will almost certainly push for formal recognition of Russia's control over Crimea, a non-negotiable point for him since the 2014 annexation. But that's not all. He'll likely demand the lifting of Western sanctions against Russia, protection guarantees for Russian-speaking populations in the remaining parts of Ukraine, the release of frozen Russian assets held in Western banks, and perhaps most critically, a written commitment from President Trump that whatever is left of Ukraine after a potential settlement will remain neutral, meaning no NATO membership, ever. That last point alone is massive. It cuts to the heart of why the war began in the first place. Russia's long-standing fear of NATO creeping too close to its borders. So, let's be clear, this meeting won't be easy for Trump. Other than maybe lifting sanctions and recognizing Crimea, which are already controversial on their own, most of Putin's demands are very tough to fulfill, especially without massive global backlash. Any move that appears to reward Russia for waging war could spark outrage across Europe, within NATO, and even inside the U.S. Trump will have to walk a very fine line between negotiating peace and not looking like he's giving it to Putin. And perhaps the most important question is this: will President Zelenskyy agree to any of this? Ukraine today is devastated. The country's infrastructure is shattered. Its economy collapsed. Thousands of Ukrainians have lost their lives, and industries and cities lie in ruins. Millions have been displaced, with many seeking asylum across Europe and beyond. After nearly 3 years of relentless war, how could Zelenskyy possibly agree to Putin's demands? Demands that include giving up large portions of Ukrainian territory, recognizing Crimea as Russian, and committing to permanent neutrality? The answer is simple: absolutely not. Zelenskyy is not going to accept Putin's terms, which many in Ukraine and globally see as outrageous and unacceptable. And here's the harsh reality: Ukraine has not even been invited to this meeting. This Trump-Putin summit is happening without Ukraine's involvement, despite Ukraine being the country actually fighting the war. President Trump has already issued a blunt message to Zelenskyy. Time is up. Decide what you're ready to keep and what you're ready to give up, because we're going to try to end this war now. Zelenskyy has been pushing for a three-way summit, saying that direct talks with Putin are the only realistic way to reach a peace deal. But Russia has rejected that for now, saying a Putin-Zelenskyy meeting could only happen in the final phase of negotiations, and only after terms have already been set. When Trump was asked whether Putin must meet with Zelenskyy before the Trump-Putin summit could take place, his response was blunt. No, he doesn't have to.
Does Putin have to meet with Zelenskyy in order and before you and Putin have to meet? Or
No.
This is not a good sign for Zelenskyy or for Ukraine as it existed before the war. The possibility of Ukraine returning to its pre-2022 borders is looking increasingly unlikely. But President Trump has made it clear that Zelenskyy needs to be ready to sign something to finally end this war. Here's a short clip of that moment. Please watch it.
President Zelenskyy has to get all of his everything he needs, because he's going to have to get ready to sign something, and I think he is working hard to get that done.
Essentially, Trump is saying, let's swap some territories. Russia gets something, Ukraine gets something. But honestly, I don't think a fair swap will happen. Putin won't agree to anything balanced unless Russia gets a much bigger share and Ukraine only a small piece in return. It's possible Russia might swap territories it controls in Sumy and Kharkiv, but it will never give up the areas it holds in Zaporizhia, Kherson, Donetsk, or Lugansk. These four regions are critically important. These are the original territories that sparked this war in the first place. I also don't believe this summit will resolve everything in one meeting. It's likely to take many talks and negotiations. You can expect President Trump to get very frustrated at either Putin or Zelenskyy, posting furiously on social media. But at the end of the day, his hands are tied. He can only facilitate meetings. The ultimate decisions rest with Putin and Zelenskyy. Now, here's a worrying scenario. If, by any means, whether threat, blackmail, or even assassination, the U.S. and Russia force Zelenskyy to sign a peace treaty that causes Ukraine to lose a large portion of its territory, Europe will lose trust in the U.S. forever. European leaders' jaws will drop in shock. They'll likely shift their focus towards arming Europe independently rather than relying on NATO or the U.S. This could widen the gap between Europe and the U.S. significantly. Things could get even worse if countries like the U.K. or France decide they've had enough and join the war against Russia directly. While the chances of that happening are low, it's not impossible and would escalate the conflict dramatically. Also, disagreements are already brewing among the 27 European Union nations over a recent trade deal with the U.S. Many EU members still don't understand how this deal came together, and some feel that the U.S. took advantage of Europe. So, a lot is happening right now. Everyone is watching closely as the two very famous leaders prepare to meet in Alaska on August 15th to discuss how to end this war, but notably without Ukraine at the table. So what do you think about this upcoming Alaska summit? Do you believe any real conclusions will come out of it, or will President Trump leave the meeting even more frustrated and angry? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.